Your blood type might not actually exist. Your skin could turn blue for no reason anyone in your family saw coming. And right now, you could be sharing your own body with a twin you never even knew you had. This is not a movie plot. This is real biology, sitting inside actual humans who are alive today, maybe even one of your neighbours. And by the end of this video, you're going to run a 10-second check on yourself to see if you're one of them. Stick around because I'm going through 9 of the strangest things hiding inside human DNA, and the last one flips everything you just learned upside down. It changes how you'll think about every single person you've ever met, including yourself, and including me, the stick figure currently talking to you. Here's the problem with how most people think about DNA. They treat it like it's boring, like it's just a fixed instruction sheet that says, brown eyes, 10 fingers, done, nothing to see here. School makes it feel even more boring, with charts about P's and dominant traits, like the whole subject is settled and there's nothing left to find. But that is not how it actually works. DNA breaks. It copies itself wrong. It glitches in ways scientists are still trying to fully explain, even with all the technology we have right now. And once you see how often the human body goes completely off script, ignoring its own instructions, breaking its own rules, you are never going to look at the word normal the same way again. So let's get into it. Point 1, starting with the case that made an entire town in Kentucky famous for the wrong reasons. Let's start in Kentucky. Back in the early 1800s, a French orphan named Martin Fugate settled near a creek and married a local woman. Neither of them had any idea, but they both happened to carry the exact same rare gene mutation buried deep in their DNA like a hidden trap nobody could see coming. Out of their 9 kids, 4 were born with skin that was visibly, genuinely blue. Not a filter, not face paint, not a costume for a school play, actually blue. The condition is called methemoglobinemia, and it happens when an enzyme that's supposed to help blood carry oxygen just stops doing its job properly. The blood cannot carry oxygen the way it's supposed to, so instead of looking red, it shows through the skin looking blue. And this was not some one-time fluke that happened once and disappeared. It kept showing up generation after generation, in that exact same family, all the way until 1975, when a baby named Benji Stacy was born so blue that the doctors in the room got ready to give him an emergency blood transfusion, fully convinced something was seriously wrong. It was his own grandmother standing in the hallway, who calmly said, "That's just a family trait, relax. They tested him anyway. She was right the whole time." Point 2. Next one is even weirder, and it has actually gotten innocent people accused of fraud in real courtrooms. It's called chimerism, and here's how it happens. 2 separate twin embryos, 2 completely different sets of DNA, fuse together super early in pregnancy and become one single person. That one person then walks around, for the rest of their life, with 2 different genetic codes living in different parts of their own body. There's a woman in Washington state named Lydia Fairchild who got accused of fraud because a court-ordered DNA test came back saying she was not actually the biological mother of her own kids. Picture that for a second. Sitting in a courtroom, being told the children you carried and gave birth to are not genetically yours. Scientists eventually figured out exactly why. Her reproductive organs had a different set of DNA than the rest of her body did, because somewhere in early pregnancy, she had quietly absorbed her own twin before she was even born. In another documented case, a man's sperm carried mostly his own DNA, but about 10% of it belonged to a twin that never actually developed, which technically makes him his own biological son's uncle. Genetically speaking. Sit with that one for a second, because I had to read it 3 times. Point 3. Now, let's talk blood, because if you think your blood type is just A, B, AB, or O, you are only seeing the surface level version of the story. There is a blood type so rare, it barely behaves like blood is even supposed to. It's called the Bombay phenotype, and it happens when someone is missing a specific antigen completely, so their blood does not actually match A, B, AB, or O. Even though a basic test in a regular hospital could easily trick a doctor into thinking it's just plain O. Then there's the one with the cooler nickname, golden blood, officially called Rh null. Only 48 people have ever been recorded having it in the entire history of modern medicine. Right now, today, there are only 9 known active donors of it on the whole planet. If you happen to have golden blood and you ever need a transfusion in an emergency, doctors cannot just grab a regular bag off a regular shelf. There might genuinely not be a backup plan waiting for you. Point 4. Now picture hair. But absolutely everywhere it is not supposed to be. Hypertrichosis is a real, documented condition where dense hair grows across someone's entire face and body, sometimes starting from the moment they're born. People used to call it werewolf syndrome, and honestly, looking at the photos, that nickname checks out. There's a specific family in Mexico where researchers traced the exact mutation down to one specific spot on the X chromosome back in 1995. But this is not some brand new internet discovery either. There's an actual oil painting from 1648 of a man named Petrus Gonsalves, completely covered head to toe in hair, sitting right next to portraits of several of his children who inherited the exact same thing. Those paintings are still hanging in a castle in Austria today, centuries later. To this day, fewer than 50 cases have ever been formally confirmed worldwide. Point 5. Here's one that sounds like an actual superpower, right up until you really think it through. Some people carry a mutation in a gene called SCN9A, and that mutation breaks the sodium channels nerves normally use to send pain signals up to the brain. The result is that they physically cannot feel pain. Not tough or high pain tolerance. Zero. Nothing. And before you start being jealous of these people, think about what that actually means in real life. Touch still works fine. Temperature still works fine. They just cannot feel it when something is actively hurting them. Most kids with this condition get diagnosed not because of some fancy lab test, but because their parents start noticing burns the kid never cried about, broken bones the kid never even mentioned, bitten tongues that absolutely should have hurt and somehow didn't. Pain is annoying, sure, but it's also the alarm system that keeps your body in one piece. Take that alarm away, and your body just keeps quietly getting damaged while you have no idea it's even happening. Point 6. This next one sounds completely made up, but it's published, peer-reviewed. Populations living high up in Tibet carry a version of a gene called EPAS, one that lets their bodies use oxygen way more efficiently at extreme altitude, dramatically better than the rest of us could ever handle. When scientists went looking for where exactly that gene variant came from, they found something nobody expected. It did not come from modern humans at all. It came from Denisovans, an extinct species of ancient human that interbred with our ancestors tens of thousands of years ago, long before any of us showed up. So somewhere out there right now, actual living people are walking around with working genetic code borrowed from a completely different species of human, one that does not even exist anymore. Point 7. Hair gets weird again with this next one. Uncomfortable hair syndrome comes from mutations in a small handful of specific genes, and it's been formally documented in only around 100 people ever in the entire world. Instead of growing in a round shape like regular hair does, the hair grows in a triangle-shaped cross-section instead. That one tiny structural change completely changes how the hair behaves. It comes out frizzy, almost glass-like in texture, usually pale blonde or silvery, and it points in every single direction at once, all the time. It is not a bad haircut. It is not dry hair that just needs some product. It is structurally, physically, unable to lie flat, no matter what brush, gel, or amount of patience you throw at it. Point 8. You've probably seen heterochromia before, 2 different coloured eyes, and assumed that was the whole story. Turns out it actually comes in 3 separate types. There's complete, where each eye is a totally different colour from the other. There's sectoral, where just one patch or wedge inside a single eye is a different colour. And there's central, where there's a ring of colour sitting around the pupil that does not match the rest of that same eye. About 1% of people have some version of it, which is rare enough to feel special, but common enough that you've probably stood right next to someone with it and never even noticed. And sometimes it's not even a simple straightforward mutation. Sometimes it's caused by the exact same chimerism we already talked about. 2 different genomes physically showing up inside one single eye. Quick myth bust before we move on though. A lot of people who go viral online for having 2 different coloured eyes actually just have something called anisocoria, where one pupil is permanently bigger than the other because of an old injury. That fakes the two-tone look perfectly, without it actually being heterochromia at all. Quick pause before we get to the big one. Out of everything you just heard, 4 of these things actually show up visibly, stuff you could technically spot on yourself or someone else right now without any lab test at all. Blue-tinted skin, 2-tone patches that follow faint lines on the body, 2 different eye colours. And in a few seconds, you'll understand why basically all of us already qualify for the 9th one without even trying. Keep that in mind, because it matters for what's coming next. Point 9. So here's where everything we just covered comes together. After hearing all of that, blue skin, a stolen twin, golden blood nobody can donate, borrowed DNA from an extinct species, you would assume being genetically normal means none of this weird stuff applies to you. Except, here's the twist, nobody tells you. Every single human being on this planet, including you right now, is born carrying somewhere between 60 and 100 brand new mutations that exist in neither one of your parents. Not inherited from mum. Not inherited from dad. Brand new, created from scratch the exact moment your specific egg and sperm combined. That means rarity isn't some exclusive club that only a few lucky or unlucky people happen to fall into. It is the default setting for being human. There is no such thing as a fully normal genome walking around anywhere on this entire planet. Not one, ever. Not your parents, not your siblings, not the most average-looking person you've ever met in your life. Every person you will ever talk to is running a version of human that has never existed before and will never be copied again. You are already a walking experiment that has never existed before in human history and will never exist again after you're gone. And so is every single person sitting next to you right now. So next time someone tells you that you're not special, you can just tell them, genetically speaking, that's actually impossible. If your brain feels a little broken right now, subscribe, because the next video breaks it even more.